Which show was this?
That was the Clash in 21.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, you're peeled, man. That's awesome. So you're around 240 there?
Yeah. That would have been right around. I think it was like 239.8 when I left my hotel room.
Yeah, it looks like someone took a knife to your legs there and just carved them out.
I will not lie. We came in absolutely peeled. Like Justin, he did it. He did the thing.
All right, YouTube, and we're live. We're here with Coty, also known as CeeLo. Many places you can find him, but one of a longtime trainer, competitors, worked with Justin on and off. He's got a lot of clients, a lot of success stories. Coty's also does some executive protection that maybe we can touch on at a high level. We can't get too specific based on his clientele for security reasons, but excited to have you on, man. I know we've been chatting a little bit about connecting, so thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited that we finally got to connect and make this happen.
Yeah, no, I love a lot of your content and some of the pictures you have and the action shots and stuff like that. It's really pretty interesting. So I think you definitely have, if you guys get a chance out there, check them out. Coty, it's C-Low. Is it Loose, right? C-Low Loose. Am I saying that right?
Losee.
I'm sorry. Losee.
You're good.
On Instagram. So yeah, I think definitely a lot of entertaining content on there. Got a little mixture of the fun side of you as well as the family side, the training side, and then the don't mess with me because I have some really awesome gun sides. This episode is brought to you by First Detachment. First Detachment is an expert formulated supplement company founded by renowned coach Justin Harris. We've combined science with real-world experience in each product. We are battle-tested. Are you?
that sums it up, Joe. You nailed it.
There you go. Now I don't know a lot about guns. I do have a CPL and a couple of handguns, but some of your setup there is pretty sweet. So
well, just let me know if you need some help. I got you.
I appreciate that. I definitely always do. So it took a few years to get the wife on board with the CPL, but once she's all into it now, which is cool. But I do actually some volunteer work at my church. I do pastoral security. So we dress normal, but we carry and go through training and stuff like that. So
very cool.
Watching the kiddos and the pastors and people kind of like, really, that's crazy. It's like, well, you'd be surprised with certain belief systems out there and some of the craziness that can happen. So
yeah, you're 100% right.
So I'm sure you're very familiar with much more than I am, but so I'll kind of kick it off. Let me see this one. So we'll see if we can't. I do not look like this though, because I think that'd be pretty badass if I could look like that, but I do not. So yeah, definitely some cool action shots on the channel there. But so talk to us a little bit, like, how did you get into, we were talking, before we started recording about some of your sports upbringing, but I think it's interesting for everybody just to kind of hear for a couple minutes your context. I always enjoy hearing how people got started, in competing. Obviously you're a top level national competitor, and kind of, played some college ball, but can you kind of walk us through your journey with lifting and training and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of started lifting weights. My dad, he always lifted weights when he grew up. So he got my brother and I a weight set. I think it was probably like my 6th or 7th grade summer. So we started just lifting weights at the house. And at that time I played everything: track, basketball, football, outside. We rode bikes, rollerbladed, hockey, you name it, we did it. And I always wanted to be bigger because, you look at those magazines back then and you see the Arnold Schwarzeneggers and all that. So I always had just this love or passion for weightlifting. And then through school, once high school hit, then we had the weight room. That was just a necessity. And then we had our weight training class for sports specifics. And I thought I was going to play in the NFL. That was always the dream. Played through high school, college, ended up hurting my knee. So basically, I ended up coming back home I grew up in West Lafayette, Indiana, and home of Purdue University. I came back, a friend of mine owned a gym and wanted to put my degree to work. So I started personal training as I rehabbed my knee. He was a former Mr. USA himself. So that was kind of my first mix with an actual bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And he kind of introduced me to the world of bodybuilding outside of just reading a Flex magazine. So that was kind of cool to see how they eat and they train in real life and not just the pages on a magazine. Or back then, my first contest was in 2010. So back then it was a lot of like barely even YouTube videos. It was mostly,
Right.
you know, you still had 5 or 6 magazines you could pick up. So from there, I just kind of fell in love with the sport. And I kind of thought about competing, but I still thought maybe I'll give the NFL another shot. Maybe I'll do other things. As I started working with athletes and training people, I started working with a client that competed in a bodybuilding show down in New Orleans. And I went down with her to watch her compete. And that was the first contest that I'd ever been to. And I absolutely kind of fell in love with the whole aspect from the check-ins through the show. And I thought this was something I could do. So we came back and I'm like, all right, I want to do a show. I looked up the schedule and I believe we did a 12-week prep for my first show, if I remember correctly. And I did it completely all by myself. She knew the nutrition side as well. So we kind of put our heads together and came up with a plan. I did my own cardio programming. I learned my posing terribly. I look back on pictures and I can't believe I posed like that. But I learned that from the internet, and I went out and jumped right into an open class at the Mr. Indiana show in 2010, and I jumped on stage. I ended up placing 3rd and said, you know what, this is what I want to do, but I need to get a whole lot bigger because I weighed in as a light heavyweight.
Okay.
And
how tall are you?
I'm 6'1", 6'1 and a half. Depends on what speedway I'm walking out of, but it's something around that. But I'm tall for a bodybuilder. It's tall, so a light heavyweight wasn't going to cut it. So I decided to take a year off, put on some size. I came back the following year at the top of the heavyweights, won every class that I could win. The first show, came back, won my class the following week at the Indianapolis, and lost the overall just real close.
Yeah.
So at that point, I knew that this was something I wanted to keep doing. So since then, I've competed multiple times. My last contest was actually with Justin. We did 2021. We did the Clash down in Orlando, Florida, where I won the Super Heavies.
Okay.
We discussed things after that, whether we go to nationals and he said, let's take some time off and let's put some more size on my frame. And we were planning to do something big last year, but with my EP work, I ended up getting called away, and the contract was extended by quite a while. So we ended up having to first prep I've ever had to kind of back out of was last year. So that brings us to this point.
Yeah. And what was your weight range, would you say, when you started to, your last show on your stage weight?
We weighed in, we weighed in at, I think we weighed in at 232, and then we did our carb up and whatnot. I think I was probably sitting around 240 by the time we got on stage the next day.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, let's see here really quick. I think, let me see which one I have here. A little slow on the trigger here today.
No, you're good.
Was it, which show was this?
That was the Clash in 21.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, you're peeled, man. That's awesome. So you're around 240 there?
Yeah. That would have been right around, I think it was like 239.8 when I left my hotel room.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I'm 6'3", so my early 20s, I competed as a teen, and then my early 20s, and was always like bottom of the supers, top of the heavies. But it's definitely something that I'd have to put on some pretty serious size. I never thought being 6'3", 250 be considered small, but I guess in this sport it is.
Exactly. Especially at nationals, it's insane.
Yeah. So yeah, no, and this other one I had here was let's see. Let's take a quick look. Which show was this for you?
Let's see. That was the Clash. That was that was winning the super heavy class. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like someone took a knife to your legs there and just carved them out.
I will not lie. We came in absolutely peeled. Like Justin, he did it. He did the thing.
Yeah. Any changes that kind of come to mind from show to show, and differences out there that you've experienced or things that you learned? Was it, how you approached the prep? Were you leaner? Was it, more cardio, less cardio, different food combinations? Any thoughts for that?
I feel like we learn something every time we compete. I do, whether that be too much cardio. Like for me, I coach myself. Justin and I have known each other for a long time, and I'd coached myself from, 2016 through working with him in 21. And I won several shows, several overalls doing my own stuff. But for me, to take it to the next level, I told Justin I needed a second set of eyes, because for myself, I never think I'm lean enough. So I'd start pulling food, or I think I need to do a little bit more cardio. And I think that's what happened to me at Nationals in 2019 is I pushed the cardio a little bit too much, and I lost the fullness that I had. So by the time I got up there, I was lean, but
Right.
standing next to a guy that's coming in at 265, there just wasn't much of a comparison. So
I think that's important, if I can comment on that too, like for context, right? Like you're at a national show, you're going against super heavyweights, guys that are, like you just said, in their 260s, where sometimes I think for the younger competitors, they're weighing, no disrespect to them, but 180 pounds on stage at a state show, and they're thinking, I can't do too much cardio because then I'll flatten out. It's like, we're talking a 240 plus pound, 6'1", well developed frame with conditioning of show after show after show, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, whatever, building into this thing, versus like someone who's doing their first couple shows. It's like, just get peeled. Don't overthink don't overthink that part of it, because I think sometimes people think like they hear a pro or someone with just ridiculous size, 5'9", 260 pounds on stage,
right, yes,
they're 6 feet and they're 185, thinking like, well, I'm going to be flat. It's like, this is a different physics we're talking here.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because I hear that all the time when I'm working with a client or in the gym. You'll see, somebody's getting ready for a show and they come and ask you a couple questions, and
Yep.
I don't want to do cardio because exactly that, I'm going to be flat, or I can't eat that because I'll spill, or
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's actually not the case. If you do it right, you can eat a whole lot before you spill.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the other part too. Like, I know even for myself, like, it's always the baggy clothes breakout when you're dieting, because it's like you got the fugly phase, right? Where you're like little soft, soft. You're flat and fat, I guess, as you're transitioning through. So it's like, oh man, I usually get from the phase.
That's the worst phase.
Oh yeah. You got to push through it, because that's when everybody starts to freak out and they don't want to take pictures. They're second guessing everything. I think that's where a coach comes in, because I 100% agree. I've been in this type of industry for over 20 years. I don't know, a graduate level work in this, probably 7 or 8 certifications, all the knowledge, there's more knowledge I certainly could have, but quite a bit. And I still would screw it up because it's like, so that's why Justin actually had me eating more than I would have, for sure. And just like, really, you want me to eat that? So it was just, okay.
I thought that many times when I'd open up my email from Justin that year, especially the week of, and I'm reading what he wants me to eat. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to argue. If you want me to eat this much rice this week, we're gonna do it. Absolutely.
Right. Well, and I think it's funny too, because I remember like being probably around 5 and 4 weeks, 5 to 3 weeks out, because I did a shorter prep with him. I think it was like 8 weeks, because I sent him some pictures at like 12 or 13, like, hey, I think next year I want to compete. This one, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was 39. And he's like, no, you should compete now. I'm like, oh, damn it. So I was like, let me start to diet and then I'll tag you in later. And sure enough, I was 8 weeks out, like, all right, let's do it. But I remember like week 5 to 3, I was hesitant, like maybe I'll wait another day to send him my check-in, because I kind of don't want to hear what he has to say, because he's going to pull back even more. I'm like, damn it. This is like, you send in the check-in to get punishment right away. But no, it's all good. Like you said, it definitely would rather do it with someone guiding you than the other way around.
Absolutely. I mean, Justin got to change things for me, and we changed a whole lot of things that I've done. I've never done the carb cycling before.
Yeah.
So that was brand new, and I didn't know how I'd like it. The first plan I got, I'm looking at it like, I don't know about this. I would rather you just tell me to eat this much chicken and this much rice, but I actually I really enjoyed it. And I mean, it was really nice having that option to eat different things each day. And I actually look forward to getting back on a diet, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, there's something about that regiment, right? Like you just get more done, you're more productive until that lasts, like, depending on what other things you're doing, until that lasts like 4 to 6 weeks, you're actually pretty dang efficient to that point. Then it's like, all right, this is rough. But I remember, because, we used to compete all together. There's a bunch of, it turns out there's a bunch of pros at this gym, while we were kind of coming up together, and which is really cool to look back on. And I remember all this, talking to our diets together. And what's interesting now about how he's adjusted the rotations, like two things that stuck out to me was, one, having like a high day once a week, and then two, like more carbohydrates pre and post workout. Because I always looked forward to my workout, and it made so much sense. Because when we were competing together, we'd go in the locker room, look at each other, and be like, all right, you got 6 low days in a row, and then a medium and a medium, and then a high day. And I'm like, okay, so it didn't matter if we were doing legs that day or not. If I'm on day 4 of low days, like I was totally screwed.
Yep.
I realized my training intensity, and I think therefore my ability to burn more fat and just push more nutrients through my body was so much more efficient than back then. And even back then we were getting peeled. I mean, there's no question. I think I just look at the evolution of even, I think it's really something cool that I experienced with communicating with him, is just the evolution of trial and error, learning and growing with it. As smart as he was back then and the knowledge he had, he still has tweaked it, and I'm sure it's a little different for everybody, but I definitely look forward to that high day.
Absolutely. Until off season. And then he was giving me, I think we're up to 3. And by that third one, I'm like, I just don't want to eat this much food. We were doing, I think my last bulking plan was like 1,200 grams of carbs.
Oh yeah.
Plus the cheat meal that wasn't really, we didn't measure that. So right. By that third high day, I just did not really want to eat anymore. But during prep, my days were lifesavers.
Yeah, no, know the feeling. I think I only did 2 and then started to back off because I was going to compete sooner. And then same thing with work travels. I actually physically was at like the Toronto Pro Show the day of the Mr. Michigan. I was going to do that as a Masters. I was going to do that. And I just knew I wasn't going to be able to pull it off. So we kind of did like a mini cut and then had to go back, so rolling through there. But yeah, so no, it's interesting to talk through that. I mean, have you, with your training, is there, just looking at your physique, is there any adjustments you've made over the, say, last, 3 to 5 years, and how you train things, or how do you set your week up, whether it's off season, in season, etc.?
Yeah, it actually changed quite a bit, because like growing up, my arms have always been big. I've always had big calves. I've always had big traps, and I've never had to do a lot for those.
Yeah.
So once I started bodybuilding and seeing how everything shapes, I kind of laid off those 3 things and started focusing on bringing up everything else. And I believe it was 2019. I was getting ready. I tore my tricep in 2018, and I completely tore the distal tendon. So I had surgery in October. And they told me, the surgeon's assistant actually told me the day before surgery, I'd probably never bodybuild again, not lift the way I lifted, etc. To his dismay, I actually competed in a show 6 months later and won.
Nice.
And I ended up doing 4 shows in 2019, including that one. And I was in between shows, and I remember I was sitting on a bike doing cardio, and Boston Lloyd messaged me. And he's like, you're looking at one of my stage shots, and he goes, you need bigger arms. And I was like, it kind of hit me, and I'm like, what do you mean I need bigger arms? I've always had big arms. And so he sent me the picture he was looking at, and I'm looking at it, and he goes, let me guess, you've always had big arms. You stopped training them so hard. You probably put them in as a secondary on back and chest days. And I did do that. And he's like, they're not bigger anymore. You need to fix that. And I had to put an arm day back into my training split, which obviously would take away from something else. But looking at the photo, he was 100% right. But in my mind, I still thought that my arms overpowered everything. So right. I overlooked that. So I've definitely put an arm day back in. Legs has always been an issue for me. I don't know what it is. I mean, you're tall too. You know that it's hard to fill out that much leg and have your legs go this way when our legs go this way. So and legs have always been a thing that I've played with consistently. Like every 4 to 6 months, I try to change up how I'm attacking my legs, whether I'm splitting hamstrings and quads or just the exercises and the rep schemes that I use. But I would definitely say in the last 3 to 5 years, I've changed my routine much more. And then with Justin, we talked through many different ideas on working quad sweeps or changing something else in the week to work on a different body part. He would give me a couple ideas of things that he would suggest. So that whole prep period, and then afterwards we discussed different ways to help, bring up. It's mostly was quad sweep. That's what we talked about the most was quad sweep.
Yeah, is there any specific movements that you worked on with the quad sweep, just for viewers out there maybe that are?
For me, I've never been a huge fan of squatting. I mean, I just feel like my legs have always grown better through either a hack squat or a leg press movement. So I've just tweaked the way my feet are on the platform, and I've gone a little bit closer, heels closer to the bottom. And for me, it was all about feel as I'm doing the exercise, where I could feel most of the tension or most of the burn coming from. So I would just tweak my feet until that's pretty much the only thing I felt for the exercise, whether that be the hack squat or the leg press. And that's kind of been the focal point of my training. When I can find a gym that has a pendulum squat, I absolutely love it, but that is extremely hard to come by in a lot of gyms.
Yeah, I don't think I've used one of those, but I've been on the hunt for that as well. Let's see something here. I know Joe Seaman does that a lot. I don't know if I on the spot here will be able to find it, but he does a lot of different. Have you ever seen any of his stuff? Let me.
I don't think so.
So Joe, let's see here. Yeah, here's this it's kind of hard to tell on this image here, but he's big on like, usually the feet are even closer than this in this shot, but they're very like knees over toes quite a bit, putting a lot of pressure on his quads, and very slow, and a pause at the bottom. So he was kind of talking about that when we had him on the podcast, just, and he's a pretty big, pretty big fella. So,
yep, actually I do follow him.
So yeah, he's got some good, some good leg stuff. I know that I was looking at, just some tweaks, and I totally agree. Like everyone's, frame itself is so different. It's, you have to, you got to kind of pay attention to the actual form you're being taught, but then the feel, right? So
exactly, bodybuilding is all about feel, and that's what I try to teach my clients or younger athletes is just because Kai Green does it, or just because Flex Lewis does it, doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work for your frame as well.
Right. Yeah. It is. Do you do a split? Just going back to the tall guy kind of discussion there. Do you ever split like hamstring and quads throughout the week? Do you find that? I
do. When Justin and I first started, he had me put my leg day back into one, and I was training just what was I doing? Just a 5-day split that time. As we progressed, we ended up going into the 6th day and splitting up quads and hamstrings. I prefer to do it that way. I think that if I do both on the same day, one or the other, I don't feel is getting trained as hard as it could be or should be.
Yeah.
Because if you spend the majority of the beginning working quads, anything that's going to be more of a compound is going to be weak for hamstrings, and vice versa. If you blast hamstring curls and stiff legs, trying to go and do heavy leg press at the end you're not going to get the same exertion that you want. So I've always been a fan of splitting those up, especially in an off season when you're trying to put on size. I really like to train both separately.
Now, what do you do for back? Because I go back and forth on this. I really like stiff legs or deadlifts for hamstring, glute, and back development, right? But then it's like, is that a back movement? Is it a hamstring? So I'm always like, all right. So I've rotated around. I probably should do a longer cycle, like meaning like an 8-day training cycle or maybe longer. But I'm so just Monday through Sunday, this is my one off day, and then try to get 5 to 6 in, and split it. But I'm curious to how do you work that out? Do you do back similar with hamstrings, or do you do a separate day?
I do them separate. I usually like to throw the stiff-legged deadlift. I usually like to do that on my hamstring day. On back day, of course, I'll do my normal bent over rows, T-bars, etc. But I usually throw in rack pulls. Okay. I actually prefer performing a rack pull rather than the conventional deadlift. Not sure why, but I like those better. I feel like I can get more control with just my back and take the hamstrings and glutes out of the movement. So it becomes just a back exercise. So I like to throw that in on my back training day. And then later in the week when I train hamstrings, I'll throw in some more of the RDLs and get that just to focus on the hamstring work. And then just a little touch up on the back while performing those. But I like to split it up like that.
Yeah, I have a buddy actually I was messaging with. He his name is Joe Sheffield. His account's private, but was a strongman competitor, college athlete, bodybuilder, etc. Just one of the smartest program design guys. And he's way back in the day when Josh Bryant was first getting out there. He's, collaborator, followed a lot of his stuff, and he just reminded me, I'm like, I need to pig him, because the same approach to dieting, like I suck at my program, because I'm like, I did that for 2 weeks when you're saying it. I'm like, I need to get that back on, because I was doing, that makes complete sense. I was doing rack pulls, which helped if I separated enough time between squats, rack pulls, and stiff leg deadlifts. Like you got to kind of, for me, at least, I don't know if it's just, I think part of it's a weakness from office jobs, sitting, etc. But I had to spread out more time because my lower back would be so fried, or just get too pumped during the movement. So
yes,
clearly my abs need to get stronger. My mobility needs to get better. So I'm recruiting the right muscles and so on. So you ever experienced kind of some limitations there from that layout, or?
I have, when I used to try to either train hamstrings and back too close together, or try to do too much on back day that involves more of that deadlifting motion. My lower back, same thing. It gets so pumped that it basically is going to cause you to stop your workout, because you're just not going to be able to perform anything else. Even a seated row, trying to pull that cable, there's just so much pump back there. It's almost painful. So I have noticed that. So I've had to split things up just a little bit to give yourself just enough recovery time to come back in and be able to actually train hard enough for that next group.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, well, kind of transitioning a little bit to what you're doing now. I mean, you have the executive protection. You have, correct me, 6-year-old daughter? You said
I do, yes.
Yeah, 6-year-old daughter. You got, the wife, the 6-year-old daughter, got the family thing going, and so you're a busy guy, training people online.
Extremely.
Yeah. So how do you approach your day? Like, what can you walk us through a typical day? How do you, from training to family life to work to meals, all that good stuff?
Oh, I mean, for me, I'm a very schedule oriented person. Like I like to have everything kind of figured out. And when things get off a little bit, it throws. I was born in September, so I'm a Virgo. I'm a planner. So it's one of those things. I like to have a plan, and everything's always in this. Like I have my calendar set up, but typically, especially during contest season, but typically in the off season, I still like to do my morning cardio. So I usually wake up and do cardio, and then it's breakfast, daughter to school, and then after that, it's kind of free time. So I usually check my email at that point and do my client programs for the day. Of course, a couple always come in late. I'm sure they're going to be listening to this. Yes, I'm talking to you.
Get it in. Your whole
so I'll do that. I usually like to train around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I like to try to get 3 meals in beforehand, so that usually works out pretty well in that schedule. When things get thrown off, it's usually when I have the EP work, because a lot of times that's not really ever planned. Sometimes I'll get a phone call and say that, we need you tonight, or we need you tomorrow. You're going to be on a plane and you're heading to, wherever, Texas or California or wherever. So that's a typical day if I'm at home. Yeah. And then of course in the evenings, it's, time with the family, watch movies, have dinner, play with my daughter, go to, she's doing cheerleading now and absolutely loves it. So I'm a cheer dad.
There you go.
But that's a typical day when it comes to the busy work stuff, it kind of varies. And that's why it's been so hard to pick a contest to get into this time, because I could be gone for a couple of days. I could be gone for a week. It could be a month. It could be just a few hours. And then sometimes the shifts turn into a 12-hour night or a 12-hour day, where getting the meals that you need and the hydration and all that stuff, it almost becomes impossible. So you end up getting calories from whatever source that you could find at that moment, or as much as I hate to say it, even drive through sometimes after, I'm leaving a shift in the middle of the night. It's midnight, 1 o'clock. The only thing open is, a fast food restaurant. Right. So you grab a burger because that's what's available.
Right.
So hopefully I'm working on getting some things maybe set more in a consistent schedule so I can get back on track with my meals and everything. But that's kind of a rough breakdown of the craziness that's my life right now.
Yeah, and I know one big thing it looks like from your channel, I think, or not channel, your Instagram. I think it's really cool too. Like, your wife seems really supportive and engaged with your post, and you guys are always posting together. Does she train with you a lot, or is that? It sounds like you guys have a really good support system there.
We do. In fact, we met by me training her. She came and needed a trainer. So when we do as much as we can, it kind of depends on scheduling and stuff with our daughter. If we're both free, then we like to go to the gym together. Sometimes we train together. Sometimes I still will put her through a workout. She doesn't really like that very much anymore.
Yeah.
Now that she's my wife, she gets to yell at me. Whereas before I could tell her that she had to do 100 reps and she'd just have to do it. So it doesn't work that way anymore.
Nope.
But no, we try. Or we're supportive in the sense that if she needs to get to the gym, okay, I'll handle this. Or if I need to get to the gym, especially during prep, she makes sure that I'm able to go and do what I need to get done and that everything else is taken care of. So yeah, she's very supportive in all aspects, and it's helped out a whole lot.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, I remember I actually knew my wife for probably almost a year. I was working at a corporate gym in management. Anyways, a class opened up, a guy left and I had to fill in. So I filled in and she was in that class. And then I was at the time had nightmares of doing triathlons. So I was doing some swim training, and she's a really good swim coach. She actually currently is a varsity coach at 2 sports at a pretty big powerhouse high school around here, and really knows her stuff. And anyway, so she was coaching me, but literally the day after, I'm talking 6 months, I'm down on flip turns, stroke looks great. I'm cruising. The very next day after our first date, she blows the whistle for my interval. I was like, no, I'm going to go ahead and just sit here and rest. And she's just like, are you freaking kidding? She was so pissed. She's just like, I put all this time in you. Because I was sinking. I horrible form, and she built me, pretty dang good. I mean, I was impressed. I was moving, and that all went to hell. As soon as we started dating, it was done. So
that's how it happens.
If she catches this clip, then she knows I still I feel her pain a little bit, but it felt better to say no because my lungs were burning. I was not about to go.
I know she still gives me that look, and then she'll do it, but she always gives me the look like, you don't get to tell me what to do anymore. But
Yep. No, I know how that goes. But no, I mean, I think it's really important, right? With these goals and family and work, right? You have to have the support system and, kind of include them as it makes it more, a lot more fun. I mean, my daughters would help with check-in pictures or whatever. And, new dad has to eat.
My daughter absolutely loves it. She hates it when I do check-ins outside though, because when you put those posing trucks on and you go in the backyard, she thinks you're in your underwear. I've heard many times during prep that I can't go outside in my underwear. During COVID, especially when we were working out in the garage quite a bit, she would come out with her little 1 pound weights and
nice.
And at the time she was, what was that? 3? She was 4 at the time. So she'd be out there with her 1 pound weights and walk with me as I do lunges down the street. And
nice.
So she thinks it's pretty cool that her dad's a big muscular guy. And
yeah, I got like I said, my oldest is 10. So we got about, year, maybe 2, she'll be in the gym with me, and then another year or 2 of her developing, and then I'll be staring holes in every guy in the gym with me. But so that's why it's like, well, I told my wife I need to get bigger because she's really pretty. So she's like, you don't need to get bigger, damn it. I'm like, yeah, I do.
See, this is why you need muscles and the guns
exactly the whole
package.
Exactly. So, well, yeah. So tell me a little bit about. I know we had one client we kind of pulled up, so I'd like to hear, just for the viewers out there too. Kind of think it's pretty cool to take a look at this. Let me see which one this is. Sorry, here. Can you talk a little about this? I know you're really proud about a lot of your clients.
Yeah, Marva.
Tell us a little about Marva here.
Yeah, Marva. She needed to lose a lot of weight, so she started going to the gym a few years ago. Kind of fell in love with the idea of competing, watching myself and one of my other clients train with, and that I trained, do a show. And she thought she could never do it. She always had that idea that, normal people can't do contests. You have to be like a crazy in the gym 24 hours a day and all this. And finally, after some coaxing, she came to me and she's like, you know what? I want to do a show. Tell me how many weeks I need. I'm willing to go 100% and make this happen. And Marva likes food. Her and her husband, they like to cook all these amazing dishes. They like to go to these amazing restaurants that I wish I could go to all the time. They like to vacation and eat. So for her, that was the hardest part, was kind of flipping that mindset for that 16-week period and really just focusing on, that was the biggest thing. The text messages I would get about food, that was our biggest thing. But she did it. She went all the way through. She was a master's class. She ended up placing second in her master's class, which was awesome.
Nice.
Let's see. I believe we did masters, novice, and open in that show. And she brought home awards in every class. So it was very cool. It was very cool to actually witness her go on stage too. The smile that she had when she finally got out there, the smile when they put the medal around her neck, and then seeing her and her husband afterwards, knowing that they had dinner reservations, was probably my favorite moment.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because, I know Michaela, she's part of, our first Team 1D. She's been on the podcast earlier, but she works with RBT. It's a company where they do they call it radical body transformations. They do shows mainly in Canada, and I went to one 2 years ago, and it was really cool to see, like, that it wasn't physique. There were some people that probably could have did a show maybe a couple more weeks. There are others that, just with the skin and how much they lost and stuff, it would have taken some more time. But it was really cool to have an end date. They got dressed up, did their deal, put the suits on, the trunks, and they had an extra round where, like, you wore like a evening, attire or whatever, which was kind of cool. But I think people need to have an end date if they're making a big push, and then be celebrated, and just be happy with what they did. And then after that, you maintain it or stay close as you can to it, and then decide, do you like it? Were you bit by the bug, or was one enough? I mean, so I think that's kind of some things that people to consider.
Yeah, it's good to see, and you're exactly right. Having that D-Day or that end date is very important for a lot of people, because otherwise it's so easy to say, well, next week I'll jump on the diet, or, well, it's Tuesday, I messed up my diet, so we'll go ahead and just start Monday. The rest of the week we're just gonna enjoy.
Yeah, it's something I've had a passion for, like with the kind of, I would call it more general population that's not going to compete, to help them. But I try to explain to them, like, you're never going to go through life for 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks where something is not going to throw you off your diet or off your plan. Like, you just have to go into it understanding. Sorry, I was looking for another image here, but you just have to go into it understanding, like, there's going to be something that you can't. Easter's not 4 days long. The holidays is not. It's 3 days. It's
right.
Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving. It's not 70 days. Like,
right.
Well, after the holidays, I'm like, wait a minute. What you said? Holidays is the best. Like, Thanksgiving's next Thursday. So, do you want to do a cheat meal for Thanksgiving? Fair enough. What the hell are you talking
Right.
about? Is Valentine's Day in that too now? So
yes, in some situations it definitely it falls in.
But I think you plan a cheat meal like, hey, that if you don't have a deadline, but just going into it with the right expectation, I think is a really important one. I actually just realized I need to post a picture of my brother-in-law. I was going to pull it up, but he was a similar one where, late 40s, maybe 46, maybe first ever show he did with me, and we did the same show I did with Justin, but I did his prep, and he's kind of now like, and he got peeled. I mean, he had a lot of people talking about like, you need to keep doing this. And he was a Division I athlete, so he's definitely got the genetics, but was just like, I think I'm good. But having that end date, he's like, I knew it was going to end, so I knew I couldn't push myself that last 6 weeks. I could have got pretty lean, and then I would have, came up with excuses. But to know there was an end date, you could really push all the way through, and then get a rebound after, and then after that, your body pretty well, so you can. All right, I put on 20 pounds of fat after dropping 50. Like, okay, let me tighten back up another 10.
Right.
And you kind of know what levers to pull. So,
right.
And with your clientele, is it more heavily competitor based, or do you find a mixture like between new competitors and?
Right now it's kind of a mixture. When I was full-time personal training, like one-on-one, I had a combination of competitors, but majority were just your everyday people or college students, because it was right next to Purdue. I had lots of students that would come over that they want me to keep them in good shape while they go and eat and drink and do all the fun stuff that college has, but they want to stay without getting the freshman 15 or freshman 20.
Yeah.
So now I would say the majority of my clients compete in something. I work with a lot of bodybuilding competitors, but I'm also working with an MMA fighter right now. He's done several Bellator fights. He's looking at possibly a UFC contract fight coming up. So that's kind of a different aspect. So the training and the diet's completely different than what a bodybuilder or a strength athlete would be looking at. So that's been a lot of fun to kind of tackle something new. I've dealt with boxers. But no, I would say right now, probably 90% of my clientele are some sort of a competitor or an athlete of some sport.
Yeah. And when you're working with fighters, just to that point, is it like the training part, or is it more nutrition, or a mixture of both?
The training side is definitely different. I've done a lot of research, and both things that I've done and then things that I've watched. And I've also gone online and talked to some friends of mine that are fighters, and some of the stuff I've done when I've done different forms of training for fighting and whatnot. But I've gone through and watched what some of the best guys in the world are doing, and that's helped me put together conditioning programs and some strength training programs where it's not necessarily just linear motions. Like for us, we go in and we're training chest. It's going to be a dumbbell press or a barbell press for chest. When you're a mixed martial artist, you need more explosive power in that strength isn't going to do it. Right. So it's been fun to come up with exercises to kind of push limits and boundaries while still doing the whole strength training aspect. He's been a lot of fun to train too. He's a cop down in Alabama, and he's a badass.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So you're able to pull that off without really having to see him in person too, and kind of can design the program that way. And
yeah, he sent me some of his fights. I've seen some of his fights on YouTube, and then of course he sends me his photos and whatnot, so I can take a look at his physique, and then we've just kind of he's one of my favorite clients because he likes to talk to me. He tells me everything. Like if he messes up his diet, he's going to tell me exactly what he messed it up with. Right. If he get everything done in his training, he'll tell me like afterwards, like, hey, on this conditioning, I can't perform such a move because I have a bad knee. What can I do in place of it? It's very nice, and it helps me a lot when I have such an open communication with a client, because I can immediately go in there and change that, get him something else that can work around those muscle groups without having something that's bothering him. Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun. We've been working together for three months now, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and just kind of, the parallels too. One of the things I've talked about a few times that I would like to work in more. I did Krav Maga for about a year and a half, and what I found was I could get a lot of cardio out of it and take the wear and tear off my legs a little bit. I'm sure you're doing knees and kicks, but or doing like bag work, for intervals. That was really hard because my body got used to the Stairmaster, used to the treadmill, different inclines, bike, etc. So it was like, all right, let me rotate this. I have not done that in like a prep, but I'm kind of starting like a phase. I just call it like a phase one. I don't have a show in mind, but I'm starting like between travel, working 2 jobs, and the family. It's it's similar tough, but I want to take like an 8-week push and then kind of reassess. And there's more than enough people that'll tell me I'm either being a baby, I need to push the whole way, or I'm too fat and I need to I need to keep give myself more time. So I know I have the audience to help keep me in check. But
absolutely,
I did find that helped. I mean, do you do any striking work yourself or with clients for cardio?
I mean, yes. When I was training in person, I did a lot of strike training, like maybe not necessarily Krav Maga or like some boxing, but I would have even my female clients, we'd get the gloves out with the mitts, and I would have them work on their coordination, but also just a different form of cardio. So we could put that into their program. It was more fun. In fact, my females enjoyed it more than the guys did. The guys didn't really like it when I put the bag and made them go with the speed bag or the heavy bag. But all of my ladies, they always loved when we would go do glove work. Yeah. Myself, yes, I've also trained with the Krav Maga. I want to get more into it, but with my crazy schedule, it's hard to make a certain class work. Because a lot of the places, especially that I've looked at down here, since I've come down here in February, they have certain nights that they have the class that I would need. Well, if I get called away on that night, then I can't make that class. So I'm hoping that I can somewhat get a scheduling situation where I can start getting to these classes so I can start doing some more training. I'd like to get more grappling training and more groundwork, and then of course get back into some striking.
Yeah. With
eating better and more in the gym. And I'd like to do all of that. I'd like to get all that stuff going back together, but definitely.
And there's a good like crossover, just getting that movement in. It's a different type of cardio. You're using your abs in different ways. So I really enjoyed it. I did it more, like I said, it was more like during the off season, but I realized the calorie expenditures were so much higher. And then I was at a smaller studio with a really good group of guys. So we kind of knew that you can push a lot harder, but you knew like the edge of like, don't hurt him, he doesn't hurt you kind of thing. And then I went to another studio that they were a little different, but they did a really nice job. And my wife went with me with like a mixture, male and females in a class. So that was cool. A little different, but it was still pretty cool. So yeah, we're actually talking about these next couple weeks here, getting back into the one studio where we can both go. And the other one I was at, like I said, it's the opposite direction. So I'm not sure when I'll be back there, but that was fun. When you got a guy who can just hold a pad and just unload some elbows and whatever, it was like just going after each other, just exchanging back and forth, and you get maximum caloric burn, that's for sure.
That every now and then that's good. That simulates the real life, the action of it.
Yep.
So you get clocked with one of those elbows. That's not a good day.
Yeah. Well, just kind of just a pause. We'll, as we wrap in a few minutes, we'll get into our shoot, move, and communicate round. But I'm just curious, if you could share for those out there, maybe a little more about you. Like, I was looking at, let me see here, just some of these images and stuff. Like, how did you get into executive protection? And, are you setting up photo shoots for these and stuff? Is this kind of just... How do you?
Well, we do. There every now and then there are photo shoots, and then sometimes when we do training, they have photographers that are there, so they're actually capturing images while we train. Every once in a while, I'll find a really cool picture of me, like online or in the news or something, from something that I've done where I just happen to be in the background or doing something, or maybe a clip on the news where there I go running across the screen or something. But
cool.
I got into it. Probably how a lot of people that I was not in the military, so I don't have the military background, but I started, I a friend of mine opened a club and asked if I would help them out with security because I was a big guy and they needed somebody to help them out with running their security. And I started coming in as a doorman. The next thing, I was running the club security side. So I did that. And then once I moved to Orlando in 2018. And once I got down there, a friend of mine kind of hooked me up with the club scene, and I went in and had an interview. And the next thing I know, I was working with all the VIP clients. They'd come in for the weekend. The Pro Bowl was here that year. So I had all the NFL players that were coming in, singers, CEOs, etc. They would put me over there running their section, walking them to their cars, doing that whole thing. I ended up going out on a tour, a concert tour with an artist, and we did, what did we do? 15 cities in 16 days.
Wow.
So I was his bodyguard, and I would drive with him. We'd stay at the hotel. We'd go to the events, get in the car. We'd head to the next venue. And then from there, I started making the right connections, and in 2020, I ended up I got clearance to do the presidential campaign, and I ended up out on tour for that. And we were again playing hotel city, back doing the next day. And that kind of opened up a whole lot of doors for me. When I got back to Indianapolis, I started basically working. Anytime we'd have VIP clients coming to town, they would call me up and I would come work either private security or close protection for those artists or celebrities, athletes, etc. And then I just had so much more work coming from Florida that when I got back from my New York trip in January, my friends down here are like, you need to get down here. We have so much stuff for you down here. There's so much more business than up in the Midwest. So in February, I ended up making that venture down here. My wife and baby are still in Indiana right now as I'm looking for a place down here.
Gotcha.
It's hard. Florida is so busy right now, and finding property is not only expensive, but extremely hard. Things go on the market and you call to go take a tour. And that's what was happening to us up there. I'd find a place that I liked. I'd call about it, and they'd be like, if you can't be here tomorrow to take a tour, it's going to be gone. I'd refresh the page the next day and it's pending. And so my wife's like, no, pack your truck. Let's get you down there so that way you can go and actually look at the places. As soon as you see it, do it, make the offer, and be done. Right. So
yeah, no, that's I didn't realize you're in the middle of that journey. So that's an exciting transition, but also I'm sure pretty tough, missing the family and all that, but you kind of making it work, and then get to say goodbye to some snow for a while, hopefully too, right? So
absolutely. I got out of there in February. So of course it's starting to warm up now, but right. I got to stay in. Well, I was in New York actually for the majority of the winter. I was out there the entire month of December, and we were about 90 minutes from Buffalo, where they got that nasty snow last year, where the Buffalo Bills couldn't even get to the airport to get to the stadium. And we actually didn't get much. It was cold, but the snow where we were, it stayed relatively calm.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Now, is it primarily, are you individually contracted, or are there like similar guys or a team that you usually will work with? Do you have some overlap there?
Well, the answer to that's kind of yes and no. Technically, I'm freelance. I work for several companies that if they have things or there's certain campaigns that I'm a part of. So when anything comes up, I'm part of that team that gets the call to go. But I do have a really good group of guys down here that are close friends that when we can get joint details together, we try to make that work. So we have a 3 or a 4-man team that we can come and do a lot of different activities, whether that be EP, private security, bodyguarding, whatever the case may be.
Is that something you have to drill as well? Like, hey, we're going to take someone from here to there to there. I mean, after a certain while, do you still drill it, or is that part of your initial training or certification or something of some sort? Or?
Well, the training is constant happening. Yeah, we like to do the range days. We do a lot of range days. The great thing about here in South Florida, they have a lot of different tactical training where you can do for anything from clearing buildings to different rifle and handgun trainings to in the middle of reloadings. I mean, you can really kind of find a class or a course for just about any type of training that you want down here. Yeah. So you have to be licensed. So every 2 years we get a renew on our licensing. But as far as the training side goes, the guys, we typically do our own. I mean, there's technically no, oh, you have to do something, but to be the best and to make sure that, especially in some cases where you have not only your life, but your client or your principal's life in hand as well, you want to be vastly trained with whether that be cardiovascular or hand-to-hand grappling, etc., and then also with firearm training.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, as I mentioned, even like on the church front, we don't do nowhere near the volume of training, but there is training. There is like recertification. There's things like that to where it's important to go through that. There's a couple different groups in the area that put on trainings for us, and it's just good to get that repetition and all the different things that you might run into. Obviously in our scenario it's a little different. It's more fixed and more reactive, a threat kind of coming in, but we're not on the move with people as much. We do the welcome to their car type stuff, or we handle the money and all that, but stuff like people that are giving and stuff like that, but so right. So it's interesting. Appreciate you sharing that, how that kind of all works. And
absolutely.
I'm sure it's a lot of fun, but a lot of time and work you got to put into it. But like you said, it's probably a little more it's fun with the group you're mixing it up with, but also in your mind you're thinking, we were always trained like not if but when. That's the mindset to the training, right? And I'm sure you
absolutely
we had some
anymore, you never know. So
a lot of our guys were like special forces guys, stuff like that, we were training us. Again, they're way up there compared to my skill set, but still the mindset was very drilled into us, like
those are great people to learn from.
Well, no, good stuff. I mean, I appreciate you jumping on with us tonight. I wanted to wind down with our shoot, move, and communicate. If you're feeling up to it, we'll knock that out, and then
all right, let's go.
We'll wind it down. So all right, so first thing we do, so again, these are generally kind of rapid fire questions. Some could be a little long form, some will be maybe single word or a couple word answer. But first one we like to kick off with is, can you tell the group about an accomplishment in coaching, like coaching clients, one of the ones that have made you the most proud?
My most proud, there's so many, but one of my clients, I actually just sent me a picture earlier, so I'm going to talk about it. The time that we met to right now, and it's like a new person. Like I literally see, it's almost the Benjamin Button effect, how it almost looks like she's gotten younger as we've trained, and just has a different look. Like it's almost like a different human being at this point, because it's changed not only the physical side, but also the mental, emotional, physical side of this person's completely changed. So it's kind of one of those moments when a client sends something like that. It's just a really good accomplishment for myself, looking back at, we've put a lot of hours in together, but I've changed somebody's life in such a positive way that they're almost a brand new person.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, I appreciate sharing that. All right, next one is accomplishment in your competitive career that you're most proud of.
I think it would be the first overall I won. I actually was born in the South Bend area by Notre Dame, and my very first overall came at the South Bend, Northern Indiana show. So I got to have a lot of friends and family that normally couldn't come down and travel, come and see me win my first overall.
Yeah, that's something about the local, feel, I'm sure. So good stuff. Well, kind of moving to some one word definitions here, I guess. One word to describe someone who works in executive protection, what would that be?
Mentally strong.
Right. One word of encouragement for an up and coming competitor, what would that be?
Consistency.
One word to describe your ideal client, what would that be?
Able to communicate.
Okay. All right, got it. Good deal. Next one, a little bit more fun on this one. So if you had to miss one, what would it be? A meal, a night of sleep, or a training session?
Night of sleep.
Good deal. And why is that? Why'd you pick that one?
Well, we have a thing in the EP world that we hashtag everything Team No Sleep. And that's because there's a lot of times that we'll go 24, 48 hours on very little to no sleep, but we still make it to the gym and we still do all the things that we need to get done. So that's a pretty simple one for me.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Fits. Actually kind of bleeds into the next question. Well, the question is this one parallel between your approach in the executive protection and competing in, bodybuilding. What would that be? If there was like one parallel between the two.
Again, I would say it's consistency, because in both aspects, you need to be consistent with your training, your mental awareness, your body, your physical shape, as well as your mental. So I think it would be consistency. Good
deal. And then we wind down here. Last one will be, we talk a lot about being all in, right? That's one of our mantras at First Detachment. So the question is just, what is that current passion project or something you're all in on at the moment?
At the moment, it's trying to find a place for my family and get us all moved in and make sure that they're taken care of and that I actually get to see them more often than what I'm getting to right now.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, if anybody watching is in the what area of Florida again?
I'm in West Palm Beach.
West Palm Beach area that knows of any good properties coming up on the market. Definitely shoot us something in the comment section or a message. We'll shoot it over to you. Well, thanks again for joining us so much. It's awesome to have you on. Again, Clo34 on Instagram. If you guys want to, definitely want to check him out. A lot of pretty cool posts and different things. You can see everything from bodybuilding to family life to the executive protection stuff. And some other fun things that he mixes in there in the middle too. It's definitely some entertaining stuff that'll catch your eye. So doing his work there. So any other areas people can find you? Or
I'm also on Facebook. My fan page is Second Is Not an Option. Okay. Twitter at CLO1334. I'm on TikTok, but I don't even use it anymore, so I'm not even going to bring that one up. But the main channel to get a hold of me is definitely going to be my Instagram. I have a link tree on there that has my coaching website, etc. So everything you need to find is going to be right there.
Cool. Let me actually take a quick look at that for everybody out there. So let's see here. This is actually just a quick snapshot. I could have pulled this up a little earlier, but got all on the link tree. So First Detachment's on there, a couple different clothing lines, and then is this your website here?
Yeah. Yes, that would be my website. You can click on that, go to the page.
Oh, there you go. Cool. And this is where people can get more information about you and then sign up for coaching as well.
Absolutely. They can send a request directly from there. It also has all my contact information that they can send, but the easiest way is just to fill out the bottom questionnaire part, and that will go directly to my email, and I will get a hold of you within 24 hours.
Nice. Awesome. Well, again, appreciate you jumping on. And for all you out there, reminder to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and be sure to put your questions or comments in the comment section. And if there's anything specific for Coty, we'll make sure that we reach out to him and tie him in on the conversation too. So enjoy the rest of the night, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you. Have a good one.
Thanks, Joe.